offense, the depth that y'all have, obviously a credit to Brian Wright and the staff. Can you talk about just sort of the job they're able to do? And just curious, did you have any sort of input on the roster?
I mean, we talk about everything, but Brian and his crew have done a heck of a job for a while now, and just kind of methodically making good decisions, and then, you know, you get some good fortune or luck or whatever it may be when there's probability there in terms of the draft, and you still got to make good and right, maybe not the right, but good decisions as much as you can, and we're starting to see a byproduct of that. So they definitely get a ton of credit for that, and Brian leading that crew.
What's sort of the ideal balance between the chord or the concert that you have between a coach and a general manager in terms of like both being able to do their independent jobs but also being able to work together?
You know, I can just speak for myself and Brian. I think we have a unique relationship in the sense that we joined the organization the same year. I was an assistant in the G League, so a little different role, but in terms of just growth within the organization, wearing a lot of different hats or just dealing with a lot of different departments and levels of the organization at different times, I think we have a really natural rhythm of understanding kind of the ecosystem of our building and our organization. And I think we both have been fortunate to surround ourselves with good people and staffs around us. And so we're able to kind of put our energy in the spots that we feel warranted, and then also trust people around us that are great at what they do to kind of own those areas and optimize those. So I think it's as the group, but Brian and myself, we had a great relationship prior to this, and so yeah, I'm sure that leads to some of that natural rhythm that I speak about.
Coach, Dyson Daniels is a key player for the Hawks. You had, back in the days, an Australian legend here with Patty Mills. What do you think about Dyson? And like, do you think there's like maybe a characteristic or a point like that Australian players have in common that makes them like special?
You know, well, I love Patty Mills. I try to answer your whole question. I think Dyson Daniels has been a heck of a defender, obviously, for a couple of years now. He's evolved and worked into that elite category, you know, all defensive level type player. And he's grown tremendously. And he and Quinn and that organization get a lot of credit for that, obviously. In terms of Australians, I think they always are kind of big personalities. They always play hard and are competitive, and maybe sometimes borderline dirty. Not Dyson, but the ones that I have encountered. Specifically the assistant coach on my bench, just so no one takes it out of context. Matt Nielsen would be the one, but there's a few. But no, all the Aussies that I've been fortunate to be around, Patty, Bainesy, you know, I got to know some of those other guys, even Joey Ingles and all his sarcasm and whatnot. It's a really tight group, and it's been cool to see kind of that country and that group transition from kind of the group that's really put them on the map across the world, and now they have, feels like, a ton of players all over the place that are thriving.
Atlanta's been without Trae Young for a while now. I think they're 8-3 or 7-3 without him. From what you've seen from afar, what are they doing that's allowing them to sort of not just stay afloat but thrive?
Yeah, Quinn's one of the best in the league, and he continues to get the most out of whatever group he has at the time. And you've seen those guys just really raise their level of defense and playing fast and being able to create turnovers, and kind of everyone stepped up, and he's done a good job of giving them some, I'm sure, parameters and organizing, you know, structures to play out of. But you see that at times when you can have a team kind of come together, and they're doing a great job.
Real quick back to the Australian question. Obviously bringing Scott to your staff this year, Jacob Chance taking over in Austin. You had a chance to work with him at all, or, you know, what have you seen from him?
Yeah, I knew Jacob. I have interacted with him prior to getting the job. And so his reputation preceded him, and I know he had his hands in a lot of things to do with the national team and then over in the NBL for a few different teams. And he's a very well studied and experienced coach for his age, and he's got a very good feel. And we've been very pleased with, and I've been very pleased with the job that he's done and his commitment to continuing to evolve and connect our programs while also bringing his own flavor to it. So we've been pretty fortunate to identify and then acquire someone of Scott King's ilk and then Jacob Chance this year.
Mitch, I hope this isn't like beating a dead horse with the injury stuff, but it was reported yesterday that the league is launching a biomechanics assessment program. And I was just curious if from a head coach's standpoint, is there anything that you'd be most curious to learn about in terms of results or whatever they might discover, just considering the pace of today's game, the physicality, the schedule, all that stuff?
Yeah, I think we're fortunate that our medical team studies that stuff as well. So we've had conversations about biomechanics and, you know, short-term and long-term and today versus over time. And I think it is a constant conversation. The game's constantly changing, as you see, whether it's distance covered, you know, high-speed acceleration per game, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's out there. I don't know what will come from it. I think it's good to continue to have kind of a checks and balances, and it's not a job I envy, and we have a great commissioner in Adam. And I'm sure he'll be all over it, as he always is, and there'll be things that come from it, whether it's more awareness or more conversations that lead to other conversations, or things that we try to have, you know, in terms of prevention versus cure. And that's obviously what we always want to do, but, you know, I think we all want all these guys to be healthy, and, yeah, we'll continue to put our best foot forward and try to do that as best as possible.
I wanted to ask you a quick Lindy Waters question. When the Warriors were here, Steve Kerr mentioned he had Lindy address the team last year around Thanksgiving to talk about his Native American heritage and Thanksgiving through that lens. I was just curious how much you know about Lindy's background, and if that's something you might be interested in him sharing with your group as well.
We've talked a little bit just about his family, so I'll keep that private, but we've had conversations, and to be honest, I haven't given it much thought yet. But yeah, Lindy has a really unique, cool background. I'll leave it at that, though.
Yeah, we've seen Pop at Shoot Around recently, and even like talking at a conference in town. I'm just curious if that means, I guess, it's feeling better and better and improving in his recovery. And what's his relationship to you and to the team, if he has any?
Yeah, his relationship with myself and the team has been as consistent as it's been. You know, obviously he's in a different role now than he was for a very long time, as we all well know, but he's been at shoot-arounds, and anytime he can get a hit with guys and talk about whatever they talk about, it can be pick-and-roll defense to, you know, house home going on, I'm sure that there's a positive influence and something that I always like to see and puts a smile on my face. My conversations with Pop are very similar as they have been, whether that was last year or before. Again, different roles, so there's a little different rhythm to them, but he still tells me what he sees, what he likes, what he doesn't like, sharing his opinion. Every now and then we'll talk a little food and wine or something like that, but yeah, it's always good to see him, and he's been around, and I hope he continues to be.
But is he here like on a day-to-day basis? Or?
He's around a lot. Yeah, I haven't really keeping like a notebook of all the days exactly, but he's around.